Now we're at the book of Psalms. The people who wrote the book of Psalms, there's 150 of them. And the people who wrote these Psalms were men who wanted a relationship with God that was closer than just obeying the law. They wanted something personal. And that's why the Psalms were written. And there are many different kinds of Psalms, and there are many different authors of the Psalms. The first two Psalms are wisdom Psalms. One is wisdom only, the first Psalm, and the second Psalm is a messianic Psalm talking about a prediction of Jesus. And it's quoted several times in the New Testament in reference to Jesus. There are 5 books of Psalms. If you go to Psalm 42, you'll see that the second book starts with Psalm 42. If you go to Psalm 73, you see the third book begins with Psalm 73. So there's 150 Psalms divided into 5 different books. And some people think they divided the book of Psalms into 5 books to agree with the 5 books of Moses, Genesis through Deuteronomy. So Psalms is men seeking a relationship with God that is personal instead of just following a bunch of regulations and laws. And so the Psalms are quoted in the New Testament more than any other book in the Old Testament, more even than Isaiah or Deuteronomy. The book of Psalms is loaded with great insight. If you ever want to read some great Psalms, read Psalm 51, David's Psalm where he sinned and committed murder and adultery, and King David came to God and prayed and was forgiven. Read Psalm 32 after you read Psalm 51, and you'll see that God forgives even murder and adultery. God can forgive anything. Psalm 22 is a great psalm. It's a psalm of crucifixion. It talks about the piercing of hands and feet. David wrote this 1,000 years before Jesus' crucifixion, but he describes it in detail. He says, they cast lots for my clothing the way the Roman soldiers did for Jesus. So if you read Psalm 22, you'll see that Jesus even quoted that psalm on the cross, the first verse, my God, why have you forsaken me? He quotes it in Aramaic, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. Psalm 22, verse 1. My God, why have you forsaken me? So the Psalms are just loaded with information about Jesus. Remember, this psalm was written 1000 BC, Psalm 22. That's about 700 years before crucifixion was even invented, but he still talks about it. Psalm 23 is probably the best known psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. There are so many great things. I recommend to you to read Psalm 139. Psalm 139 will show you that God knows you more personally than you know yourself.